Oh, good evening and welcome to the summer. It's that time of year when we emerge blinking into the sunlight and see what mess the winter's made. So I just wanted to do a really quick show around some of the spring beds that we have in the garden. We've got quite a few various bulbs and things like that. So as I walk past the gardener,
hello.
He's just cut the lawn, which is why it looks so fab. Always makes the garden look better when you cut the lawn. I'm going to start with this back bed here, which is kind of working. It's coming out quite nicely. It's one of the spring beds. Let's see, you can see there. So start off with the hellebore. You can see there's a nice pink one here, and in the corner there's a blue hellebore. Now these have been out. These have been out throughout the winter. These are lovely. And just sneaky look here at the hedgehog house, which was built by Steve for the little family of hedgehogs we've got in the garden. We are starting to see them. They're starting to eat the food, which is fantastic news. And then in here, I'm going to back off quite quickly because in the ivy we usually have a wren's nest, and it's getting to that time of year when the garden's getting a little hot. So yeah, so this bed, now this is quite a special bed because today is our wedding anniversary, and we got married on a fabulous day just like this 2 years ago up at the George in Stamford. And shout out to the George, which is a fabulous place for a really good meal if you've got half an hour or three to spare and a little bit of money. I'd highly recommend it. Anyway, first we then went on honeymoon to Slovenia and Lake Bled, and the springtime is the right time to go to Slovenia. The mountain flowers, the spring flowers, absolutely beautiful. So I managed to find some of the flowers that they had in Slovenia and put them in this bed. Now the first one to show you is this tiny little one here, which is hepatica. I've actually always had that in the garden because I quite like it. I like the story. Way back in the 15th century, 16th century, and possibly even before, it was believed that herbs would have properties depending on what they looked like. So if they looked like part of the body, then they would affect the body. Now hepatica was thought to look like the liver, which is why it's called hepatica, because hepatic means liver. Particularly the flowers, the leaves. Now that's a hepatica leaf. I don't think that looks any bit like the liver at all. And ironically, these are actually toxic to the liver. But they're lovely, beautiful little pretty blue flower. So I like those. We've also got some anemones, which is the first time I've actually managed to grow anemones in the garden successfully year after year. And at the back is a wood anemone, which is the sort that you see in the woodlands. That's an anemone or a windflower. We have violets because, you know, that is quintessentially spring. And then next to it is another Slovenian plant called hyacinth. Now, it's quite difficult to find. I found a nursery up in Nottinghamshire that sold me some plants. Just really unusual little flower. And I'm having to talk up because that blackbird's trying to drown me out, I think. We also have primroses. There's a white one looking a bit manky now, and the blue one hasn't really worked, so I won't show you that. And celandines, which for me are the first sign of spring. These are the lesser celandines. Now we do actually have greater celandines in the garden as well, but these are the springtime ones. The next one to show you is this called Isopyram, which looks like it's related to Tulips if you've got that in the garden, which is quite a big plant. Looking at the leaves, but might be a false friend though. And again, that's another one that grew in Slovenia, and luckily one of our local nurseries had a plant in, so I went down there midsummer, a place called Beach's Nursery, and anyone down near Ashton in North Essex. Again, fantastic, really beautiful setting, gorgeous garden, flower meadow at the back, butterflies there, highly recommended as a nursery. And they had a pot which looked dead. Thankfully it wasn't. The final thing just to show you in here, or a couple of things. First is the slow bush. Now that's not usually the first to come into blossom in the garden, but has been this year. It's generally the first blossom that you see out in the hedgerows. That's buckthorn slow. So hopefully get a few more than 3 slows on it this year, because I probably need some more gin. And the cyclamen. You can see those there. And these have been out again throughout the winter. They flower various shades of purple and red. And these were scattered across the woodland floor in Lake Bled and Lake Blockin, which was just up the road. So would highly recommend those for a bit of winter colour. So this is the first. I know it's a bit sentimental, isn't it? There's quite a lot more sentimental in the garden. But this is the first bed, as I said, based pretty much the colours and the planting based on what we saw in Slovenia last year. And then bit of an experiment, but it's worked better than I thought it would actually. I wasn't sure how much would last the summer, the winter even. So just take down to these are the bulbs. Now, many years ago, I thought this bed would be lovely if it had some really unusual coloured tulips. So we'll have some black tulips, we'll have some bronze tulips and some green tulips. So I've planted them. Most of them got eaten by the squirrel. What I have is some magenta tulips. I have one bright red, which I have never planted, but I do have these fantastic double white tulips. Now this one's a little over, but that's the first one. As you can see, there's another one coming out. And these are just stunning when the sun comes through them. Also to show you in here, they've now just finished, and these are the snowdrops. I don't think you can have a spring garden without snowdrops. There's a mandrake, which I showed you, because this is also doubles as the garden of good and evil. The mandrake I showed you last year, and that's actually been flowering spectacularly. This is really happy, and unfortunately all the flowers are now over. You can just see the dead remnants of them. Having thought that I'd lost it a couple of years ago, that's doing pretty well. I said mandrake is a member of the belladonna family, so it has the same effect as belladonna. Now, you know, the big pupils. What else have we got in here? Well, the idea is that these give the colour whilst the rest of the plants will all flower later in the year. We have the remains of hyacinth, which I got given for a Christmas present about 5 years ago. This beautiful dark purple, which is obviously spreading and propagating quite happily. It's not nearly as big a fluorescence as it was when I put it in, but smells heavenly. I have this, which is a type of hyacinth, and I really can't remember what it is, but they're quite pretty. And we have these, and these are Scilla, S-C-I-L-L-A, and there's a few different colours. I like the blue ones, which is kind of predictable. There's some white as well. Also known as Glory of the Snow. I think they're sort of from Russia, Caucasian area, but they just make a really lovely spring flower when they come up. There will be bluebells in this bed. They're sort of round the far corner. But the important thing, and the reason for doing the video today, is that I've just noticed this baby out. And this is the first of the Pasch flowers, which means it must be Easter. Pasch flower also, I found out, is the county flower of Cambridgeshire. We've got a couple of different colours in here, and there's a local nature reserve where they grow wild. Absolutely beautiful. But just reminded me to say to everybody, happy Easter, and do you mind to the sparrow. I hope everybody's staying well and is emerging from the winter fairly unscathed. And we'll have another catch up from the garden soon. Thank you. Bye.